Welcome to the Active Aging Resources Podcast, where we celebrate and support the journey of aging with warmth and compassion. I'm Kathy, your host, a dedicated senior home coach, certified senior housing professional, and aging in place specialist, here to serve and support you. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations with amazing professionals who are committed to enriching the lives of seniors. Whether it's tips on aging in place, transitioning to a new home, or downsizing, we're here to help you thrive. Stay tuned for heartfelt stories, practical advice, and valuable resources that celebrate and support an active and fulfilling life. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast and visit activeagingresources.com for more insights and inspiration. Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy at Active Aging Resources, and today I am interviewing Carol Pearlman, who is a licensed psychologist with over 25 years of experience. She helps individuals overcome difficulties and achieve their personal goals. She's published a dozen articles, presented over 20 papers at national conferences, and is the co-author of a series of treatment books for adults with ADHD. She's also the host of a top podcast, Healthy Habits for Life. So good morning, Carol. I'm so glad to have you on my program.
Good morning, Kathy. Thank you so much for having me today.
Tell me a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, so I'm a psychologist. I've worked in traditional settings for the past 25 years. I've worked in the big academic medical settings in Boston, and I've had a private practice for nearly 20 years. And I was helping people with things like anxiety, depression, and adults with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But my true passion is helping people with daily habits. And this had been my interest since the very beginning of graduate school. And I really wanted to come back to this. So in 2014, I started an online health coaching business. And I've been teaching individuals how to create daily habits for health, productivity, work-life balance, and overall wellness. I love what I do. And I love the opportunity, all day long, we are all making a lot of decisions about our habits. And I love to help people make the positive decisions, moment to moment, hour to hour, that help them achieve the outcome that they want. So I've been teaching, I've been running groups, I've been helping individuals, I've been teaching online courses, and I've been working with people who are facing retirement or transitioning to retirement. And in hearing about their struggles, it just became so evident to me that this is such an important time of life and people really need help. It is hard, and we'll get into all the reasons why it's hard. But with support and with some guidance, it is absolutely possible to thrive during retirement and really minimize some of the difficulties that I have seen in my practice that I've helped people with. And so I decided to create a new branch of my business and help people thrive during retirement. And that's what we're going to talk more about today.
I love it. So tell us, why is the transition to retirement such a unique time of life, one warranting a lot of attention, a lot of thought?
Yeah, it's a big deal. Transitioning to retirement is a huge life change. I mean, it's up there with some of the big transitions that we normally think about: moving, getting married, having babies, changing jobs. It's a major life transition and part of why it's so important to really think it through intentionally is because it has a ripple effect on nearly every aspect of your life, your finances, your day-to-day life, your relationships, for some people, your sense of self-worth. And it's all new territory. You've never done this before. So for some people, if you've changed jobs, it's a big deal, but you might have done it before. So you kind of have a template in your head of what to expect and how to get through it. But you've never done this before. You've never transitioned to retirement. So you have no template whatsoever. And it can feel really scary, overwhelming, and anxiety provoking, and many other emotions. I mean, there's just a whole range. You may have a lot of feelings about the circumstances of your retirement, whether it was planned or unexpected or forced for various reasons. And so in addition to the logistics that change day to day, there are a lot of emotions that come up, and a lot of people find they need some help working through that. And then the biggest thing that I see, and this is what I feel so strongly about helping people with, is the loss of basic structure. So if for many years you worked in a certain job, you had a certain lifestyle, you had anchors to your day. You had to wake up at a certain time. Maybe you had to help kids get ready for school. You had to be at a job by 9 o'clock. You left at 5. I mean, there were anchors to your day. There were things that you had to do, people who were expecting you to show up. And then one day, all of that goes away. And you basically wake up. And if you open your calendar, you might see it's totally blank. There is nowhere to go, no one expecting you. And on the one hand, that might feel really liberating and really exciting. And there's an element of that for sure. But it can also lead people to feel really untethered and lost and anxious and overwhelmed. And it doesn't have to be that way. But without help and without some foresight, it can definitely play out that way.
It makes so much sense. And right now we have about 10,000 people a day turning age 65. And I know a lot of people retire at 67, but you're starting to think, what am I going to do with my time after I am not working? I just spoke with a woman the other day, and she was called into the office and was basically given a package. And she had to sit there for a moment and really think, like, I like my job. I like working. But in the end, she said, I got up and I gave him a hug and said, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for releasing me. And now I'm going to start my next life. But then she said it was great for a couple of weeks, but then she realized she missed that interaction. She said, I would go in for free just so I could sit in the office and chat and be with people.
Exactly.
So she's I get that. She's struggling with that lack of communication,
Yeah.
yes, and
And it's a
purpose.
great example of probably what's a very common experience. There's some initial excitement. Yay, I can release myself of these responsibilities, of some of the challenges. I have freedom, and that may be enjoyable for a short period of time. But soon enough, that novelty starts to wear off.
Wear off.
And that's where the struggles start to emerge. So that was the other thing I wanted to talk about is sort of what can happen if you don't put some thought into your life throughout retirement and as you transition. You can face a lot of challenges. So maybe this is a good place to go, to start going into that. So there's, just like you said with this individual, there's, the loss of social connection that might have been built into your day. And
Huge.
humans are social creatures. We thrive on that. Even if you run on the introverted side of things, we thrive on human connection. And so when you take that away, it can be a really big loss. If you are not thinking intentionally about how you want to spend your time, then you start to create patterns, but they're unhelpful patterns. And the more time that goes on, the harder it is to dig yourself out of that. So this can pertain to health problems. So I know a lot of people get into troubles. They start drinking wine, when the wine comes out at 4 o'clock, maybe the wine comes out
Right.
at 3 o'clock, day after
It's
day.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Exactly. And while that might be fun in the moment, day after day over time, that's going to get old. That's going to start impacting your health. It's going to impact your sleep. And then, if it's not addressed in the short term, it's a lot harder to dig yourself out of that once you have long-term patterns and that becomes the norm. And now you have to undo all of that. You can create financial strain. So, I'm not here to give financial advice. There are people who will help people plan. There are professionals who will help people plan financially for retirement. However, there are a lot of feelings that go along with this change in financial situation. And there is going to be a need of keeping an eye on things financially and having a plan and having a budget and really thinking through what kind of lifestyle do I want? What can I afford? And if you haven't thought through that and really thought about how that translates day to day into what's reasonable, then you could create some financial problems that will be a lot harder to dig yourself out of when you're no longer earning and now you're just managing money. And then the last area I want to talk about is marital relationships, friendships, those social connections. That if you individually start to spiral into unhealthy patterns, it's going to have an impact on your relationships with the people around you, and it's going to create challenges with all of them. So
Absolutely.
it can turn ugly. I hate to say it. I've seen it, it can turn really rough. if you don't have a plan and if you're not thinking intentionally about what you want this phase of life to look like.
I so agree with all of that. And I deal with people who are thinking about downsizing, and you talk to them when they're, in their 50s, and they always have these great ideas of what they're going to do when they retire. But then all of a sudden it sneaks up on you and you're 65, you're 67, you're heading to 70. And that's when I come in and I help them decide, okay, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself living for the next, the last quarter of your life? And what do you want to bring with you? And that's another thing that you and I had talked about earlier about the guilt
Yeah.
of downsizing. I mean, downsizing is great. It's a feeling of relief. It's right sizing your life. But if you're the keeper of the memories in your family, you are dealing with a lot of guilt when you start saying, okay, I got to get rid of all this stuff. I don't want to carry it with
Yeah.
me. And I'm sure you can help people with that as well, because that's a struggle,
And it,
physically and
yeah,
mentally.
I mean, it's a struggle, just the task itself, even if there were no emotions attached, managing such a big,
Exactly.
overwhelming task can feel like a lot, but I have a lot of strategies that I teach people to make that feel absolutely doable, and strategies that we work on to address the emotions so that you can recognize them, label them, process them, but work through them so that they don't interfere with your process and get you stuck.
Yeah. And then you can keep your family intact as well,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of challenges that come with the family when it comes to getting rid of things that,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
wait a minute,
Yep.
you can't get rid of that. But no, I don't have room for
Yep.
that.
I'm sure you see a whole lot of that. Yeah.
Right? Right. So you've mentioned so many things. What do you think the top, let's leave with the top um, thing that people should think about when they start to think about retirement? What should they really put some thought into and some intention
Yeah.
into?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, really, I want to emphasize one word, and we'll break it
Okay,
down a little bit. But that one word is intention, is to go into it with
intention.
intention, with thought. I mean, I've worked with people that, they come to me, they had just retired, and I say, well, when you thought about retirement life, what did you imagine it would be like? And they say, I don't know. I never thought about it. I was just so busy in my life. I never really thought
Right.
about that chapter. So it leaves them really unprepared. So intention, intention, intention is the one word I really want
Okay.
people thinking about. And you can start that 10 years before retirement, 5 years before retirement, 1 year before. And then even if you're in it, you can create intention at the start of every day, by just taking some
The
time in the
start of
moment,
every
which we're
day.
going to get into. But so let's just emphasize that word intention and then break it down. How does that play out in your
Okay.
life in various ways? So I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways that I really recommend people apply this idea of intentionality. So the first one is, let me just back up 1 minute and say, so when I talk about being intention, my very top recommendation is about planning your day with intention. So being
Okay.
really thoughtful about, how do I want this day to look like? And this will be different for everyone. But when I think about how do I want the day to look, it's factoring in things like productivity. So, what kinds of things do I need to accomplish? And enjoyable activities. What do I want to do that's fun and enjoyable? What do I want to do that's meaningful to me? And what do I want to do that's going to help me take care of my body today? So that's the first one that I really want to get into. The self care habits are so huge. We all know without your health, you really have nothing.
Nothing.
And it's something that is really hard to play catch up with if you have neglected it, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and say, oh my gosh, I want to be healthy so I can spend this time with my grandchildren and I can play on the floor with them and I can take walks with my friends. You want to be able to have all the options in the world available to you. You don't want to be limited.
And you want to be able to pick up your grandchildren. How many times I hear women my age and older, I'm strength training so that I can pick up my babies,
Yeah.
and
I,
yeah,
yeah. So carving out time for self-care habits to me is the number one. It should show up every day as you intentionally plan out your day. So thinking about, and we could spend honestly hours on each one of these topics, and I cover them in my programs, but I'm just going to give an overview today. So when I think about
Okay.
self-care, I'm thinking about your sleep habits, I'm thinking about exercise routines, whatever that is for you. You know, if it's tennis, if it's pickleball, if it's yoga, if it's stretching, if it's walking, whatever it is for you, carving out the time for that. um, Nutrition. So creating time to think about meals, to shop for meals, to prepare meals, or however you do it to make sure that you have meals on your table that align with the goals that you have for your life. Everybody has different needs, but your meals should align with your goals so that they work for you. And fun. We want to make
Good.
sure there's time for fun, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. So that's self-care. That's part number one, is creating time for all those daily self-care activities that are going to have a huge payoff and really impact your quality of life in retirement.
So that's more than just a typical to-do list.
I know people are so surprised. So I teach a time management program, teaching people how to use their time effectively. And when I show them, we literally look at calendars. And yeah, people know to put their doctor's appointments in the calendar. And when I show them mine and I invite them to do the same for theirs, they're shocked. What? You plan out exactly when you're going to exercise? When are you going to go for a walk? When are you going to do some yoga?
Wow.
They're really surprised. They're not used to planning that so specifically. And it's a game changer, because if you just hope, oh, I'm going to try to work it in 3 days a week, it is not going to happen as consistently as it will if you plan it specifically.
Exactly. I love that. And I think for people who are retired, it's even more important because they have to fill their calendar and they have to stay on purpose so that they have a fulfilling life on a daily basis.
In the end, it feels better if you wake up, you say, oh, I'm going to walk with my friend at 4 o'clock today. Yay. I know I
Yes,
can look forward to that all day long. It's going to feel
right.
better. To see it in the calendar and to know exactly what's happening and know that you can look forward to it.
I like it.
So that's self-care. That's the first part of creating an intentional lifestyle. The second piece is creating consistent opportunities for social connection. And this is what you opened with, just how hard it is when your social connections have been tied into your work environment and then that goes away. It's really important to make sure that you add them back in and make sure they are there. There's so much research on loneliness right now, and it's a big problem. It was a problem before COVID. It was magnified
Oh,
during COVID, and it continues to be a challenge. And so, one great way for buffering yourself against, unhappiness and loneliness is to purposefully create opportunities for these social connections with family, with friends, even with strangers. Just even being out and about in the world, going to get a cup of coffee, going to the grocery store rather than ordering groceries, just being out and about with the world is really important for our happiness.
absolutely. Joining a book group, doing things that you didn't have time to do when you were working
Exactly.
more than a 9 to 5 hour job,
Yeah, exactly.
bringing up kids, making dinner,
You paid your dues.
right?
Yeah, you made all these sacrifices, and this is the time to bring it all back. But it feels really
This is
strange. Like anything, when you're not used to doing it, it may feel really strange at first. And it may take
exactly.
some time to get used to that. So, related to the social activity is getting involved with hobbies, creating fun. So, again, when you open up your calendar, you don't just want to see doctor's appointments, meet with financial planner. You want to see fun. This is the time for fun. So, that's going to look different for everybody. And so, this is the
Exactly.
time to think about, what do I like to do? Maybe what were some things that I enjoyed when I was younger, but I didn't have time to do when I was busy working, and now I can bring it back? Or are there activities that you always wanted to do and never did, and this is the time to try it?
Hmm.
Having fun, believe it or not, having fun doing creative activities produces something called dopamine, which is a chemical or a
Yep.
neurotransmitter in our brain. It's a feel-good chemical, and it creates that feeling of pleasure and happiness. So we don't have to wait around for that and say, I hope I feel good today. I hope I feel positive. You can set the stage to create it by planning these fun and creative activities.
Boy,
Um,
that sounds perfect. for anybody and any age, any ability,
Yeah.
really.
And it can be the tiniest little thing. It can be small hobbies, it can be gardening, painting, drawing. We talked about some sports. A lot of people are enjoying pickleball in
Sports,
retirement, walking, reading, doing brain stimulating
walking,
things.
the importance of sunshine,
Oh, yes, that's a whole nother topic.
right? That's a whole other topic.
Yep. Genealogy projects, a lot of people like that. Maybe this is the
Mhm.
time to work on photo projects. I know I have this hope. I'm really good at taking photos, but I don't have time right now to actually make the albums and, give
Right?
gifts to people. But, when you're no longer working, that's the time to go back and organize the photos and work on those projects. So there are endless opportunities to have fun. And it's important to make sure that you see that in your calendar.
I so agree.
Okay. And then, so that's number three. So, number four is finding ways to make life meaningful and purposeful. So, for a lot of people, they derived that from their job or maybe raising children. And then, when those phases of life end, there goes the activities.
Your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this I think is really hard. And this might take a little bit more thought into what is going to be meaningful for me if I'm no longer working and raising my children. How am I going to feel like this life is purposeful? And yet, it's a great time to, like we were saying, to do the things or get involved in ways that you couldn't before. So, volunteering for organizations, maybe even doing part time work in a job that you could never do because it didn't pay enough, but maybe once that's not the primary factor, you could do that. Like, I'll let you in on a little secret. I had a job when I was 15. I had a job decorating cakes, which I loved, and it's a hobby of mine, but it's not going to pay my mortgage at the moment. So I can't do it right now. But I can tell you that the day I retire, I am going to go back to decorating cakes because it's creative, it's so much fun, and it'll be a time when I can do more of that.
Right. And you'll have the time and you'll enjoy it and you won't have to do it.
Exactly.
You won't have to get up and do it. It's something that
Exactly.
you're going to
So
want to
these
do.
part-time jobs, like working at Home Depot, working at a, like not a sewing store,
A flower
yeah,
shop, working. Yes,
yeah.
yes, I
They,
so
they can
agree.
be really meaningful in this phase of life to do something that's just enjoyable, to have that social interaction, to have a reason to get up and get out of the house. It can be a great part of your thriving in retirement plan.
Absolutely.
And then the last thing, we talked a little bit about finances. So, and this is a really big one. I've seen this a lot in my practice, that another reason why transitioning to retirement is such a big deal is because you're making the shift from being an earner and a spender to just
Mm,
a spender. And that can be
Wonder.
really hard. It can set the stage for anxiety. Will I have enough money? Am I going to run out? Will I be able to live the life that I want? So, of course, I'm going to encourage people to work with a financial planner to help you get some answers as best as we can. I mean, that's part of the challenge is there are a lot of unknowns. You don't know what your needs will be necessarily, but the financial planners have their ways of helping you estimate and make a plan. And then I hope they're helping you make a budget. And if not, this is something to do on your own. To say, okay, here's the weekly amount that monthly amount that I know I have. Let me think about how I'm going to spend that. So at the beginning of retirement, spend some time working on that budget and really getting clear on
Mhm.
what does that look like day to day, week to week, month to month. And you got to work on sticking to that. So creating a process where you're checking in with your finances. Am I on track? Am I consistent with my budget? Is this all working? If so, great. If not, what are some adjustments that I might need to make? And so that's the logistic of the finance. But then there's the mindset about finances. And I know I've worked with people who feel like it's really hard to no longer be an earner and just be spending. And so there are a lot of ways you can work with your thoughts to give yourself permission and say, I've earned this time. I've paid my dues. I worked for all those years. It's okay to enjoy it. Go spend the money in the ways that we have planned and budgeted and enjoy it guilt free because you have earned it and you have planned for this time. But I think this is something that
Absolutely.
most people are not talking about, but I think there's a lot of work to do around the mindset of spending money during retirement.
And I bet that it's difficult for a lot of couples too, because you may have the husband who wants to travel and spend money, and now's the time to enjoy it, and the wife thinking, "Wait a minute, we're living longer now,
Yep.
and we need to make sure we're not overspending so we don't run out of money if we live to, in our 90s, which is not unusual today,
Right. Yeah. And
right?
that's a whole nother topic of, if you're in a relationship or your finances affect other people, then you have to be on the same page and make these decisions factoring in both people's needs and styles and wants and all of that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's so much to retiring, more than just saying,
Yeah.
great to see you,
Yeah.
gotta go,
There really is.
off to my new life.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
just like anything, there is an opportunity to get support. I mean, we are so lucky, with whether it's social media, whether it's, the online resources that we have, is that support is out there. There are people like
Hmm.
myself, there are therapists, there are coaches, there are programs, and there are communities. I think social media, this is a whole nother topic I won't get into, but I think social media is fantastic because it gives us a way to easily find people who are going through the same thing that we are and connect with them. And especially
Absolutely.
the women. Women love communities. Women love to talk with other women who are going through the same thing, to share resources, to be supportive for one another. And there is a lot of that out there. All you have to do is take advantage of it.
All you have to do is go on Facebook,
Yep.
right?
And
And you
go
can
on,
find
go
what
on
you
groups.
can find a group.
Yeah. Go on groups and search for exactly what you want. And it is there, and, take advantage of it.
Now, I know that you do a series of seminars, um, and I'm wondering if you could share with our listeners how they could get in touch with you if they wanted to get involved in one of your courses.
Yeah, so I have lots of resources available, and they're all on my website. So you can go to carolpearlman.com. You can go to my coaching website, which is Healthy for Life by carolpearlman.com. And everything is
Okay.
on there. I have workbooks that you can do at your own pace that walk you through step-by-step guidelines for everything that we talked about today. I have
Mhm.
programs from time to time. I run a group program. I actually have one coming up that's starting in September. So this is a great time. People will probably hear this in August. You can reach
Okay.
out to me, Carol Pearlman, at carolpearlman.com, and I can get
Okay.
you all the information about the new course that will be launching in September. It's it's going to be really fantastic. It's a 90-day program for people who are really wanting to work on habits. So we're going to work on the day-to-day
Oh,
scheduling.
habits.
We're going to work
Okay.
on really being intentional about those health dimensions I talked about: sleep, exercise,
Mhm.
meals, fun, rest, relaxation. So really creating your own personalized plan for what you want day-to-day life to look like, and then learning all the skills you need to make it happen. Because it's one thing to say, I'd love to do all these things, and it's another thing to make them happen day in and day out with all of the challenges that we face. And I'm here to teach you exactly how to do that and how to work around the potential obstacles so that your actual life, your actual daily habits align with what you wanted them to look like. So I'm really excited for this
It's-
program, and I can't wait to bring together a community of people who are working on the same thing so they can support one another with the guidance of me along the way.
Wonderful. And I'll share all that information below. All right. Now we're going to leave with the word intention in our
Yep.
minds. We're going to try to live each day with intention and those 5 items that you mentioned. And one last question. Is there a book that you would recommend reading for people who are in retirement or going into
Yep.
retirement? I love to share
Yep.
books.
My all-time favorite is called The Miracle Morning.
The
The
Miracle
Miracle
Morning.
Morning
Okay. I think I've heard of that.
by Hal Elrod, Elrod. And it is a book that will teach you. It's one of those books that you can't just read. You have to read it and live it if you really want to be impacted by it. But he basically walks you through a process which shows up in my course, because this is the same process I follow and I teach everyone I work with. But the idea is to create a routine in the morning so that you
Mhm.
are tending to yourself. You're tending to your mind and your body first thing in the morning, setting the stage for how you want to feel mentally, emotionally, and physically. And that ends
Mhm.
up having a positive ripple effect on your whole day, so that you then continue to take positive action and create a day that looks and aligns with the vision that you had in your head. It is outstanding. My all time
That's
favorite, The
wonderful.
Miracle Morning.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to hearing more about this course in September, and I'll have you back
I'd
on.
love to be there. Thank you so much, Kathy, for having me today. It was great fun.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for spending time with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share it with those who would appreciate it. Don't forget to visit activeagingresources.com for more heartwarming stories and invaluable resources. Until next time, remember to take care, stay active, and cherish every moment of your journey. We're here to help you every step of the way.